Coming up, it's the second half of tonight's RWL Rage here on the RWL YouTube channel. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second half of tonight's RWL Rage in Hershey, PA. Don Hickson, Christy Ogilvie, and Myron Schimmelman here in the booth. 3 more. I have to correct myself, I said 4 more, but actually 3 more major matches coming up this evening, and what a lineup it is.
A bit later, Mr. Memphis Million, Eddie Guns, and his brother Ray in tag team action against the Hart Foundation, and those 2 ghoulish sisters, Titania Tatiana and Showbiz, facing Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark in a ladies tag.
And in the main event, T-Dog Tomasio defending the Rage television title against Jinder Mahal in his first major title challenge. However, beginning the second half festivities, it's those 2 ghoulish sisters Christy talked about, Titania Tatiana and Showbiz, locking it up against the team of Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark.
Welcome back, fans. Our second half opening ladies tag match is scheduled for 1 fall, with a 20-minute time limit. Approaching the ring, from West Hollywood, California, Titania Tatiana, and, from San Francisco, California, Showbiz.
The Golden Goddess and her Golden Princess, Titania Tatiana and Showbiz, making their way down to the ring to face Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark in this ladies tag matchup. And well, now, Titania Tatiana, extremely unpopular, has been for a long time, boldly came in her first few weeks to challenge Women's World Champion Dynamite Jeannie Parker, only to be beaten and humiliated time and time again. She suffers from what I like to call an overinflated sense of self-worth. Titania Tatiana thought she could just come in right out of the gate, challenge the Women's World Champion, and wound up getting, well, like you said, beaten and humiliated over and over again. But she hasn't given up, and both her and Showbiz are still looking for some new avenue that's going to advance them. So far, it hasn't come.
Probably never will. You know why Titania's never gotten past being women's international champ just that one time. It's cause of her and Showbiz and that high-handed attitude they've had for forever. But skip that for a second. I think Shayna and Zoe, who have had a mixed bag of wins and losses, definitely have a chance against these 2. But you know yourselves, guys. Titania and Showbiz, they ain't gonna play fair, and you know it.
And their opponents, from Sioux Falls, Iowa, Shayna Baszler, and from Las Vegas, Nevada, Zoe Stark.
Another pair of recent RWL acquisitions courtesy of the most recent WWE fire sale, Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. An impressive tag team, no nonsense, straight wrestling, nothing fancy about these 2 ladies, and they are going to give Titania and Showbiz a definite run for their money. It's going to be very hard for them to get a win against Titania and Showbiz. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's going to be very hard. Looks like it's going to be Titania Tatiana and Zoe Stark starting out for their respective teams in this ladies tag matchup. Referee Walt Rothburn sounds the bell, and off we go. Titania with a chop, a right, and a kick to Zoe Stark, taking her down to the canvas. She steps out and turns it over to Showbiz rather quickly. Showbiz with a right, a chop, gets a hold of Zoe Stark. A clubbing blow to the chest from Showbiz, who goes for an immediate cover, but not even a 1. Zoe Stark, still far too fresh. Less than 30 seconds into this matchup, there's a snapmare and a kick to the back from Zoe Stark to Showbiz. Showbiz rounded up, there's a hard right that turns her around. Zoe Stark goes behind, nice suplex from Zoe Stark again. Stark and Baszler definitely have the wrestling skills. A knee into the back of Showbiz, followed up with a stomp from Zoe Stark. Stark standing and stamping on the hands and fingers of Showbiz. And Showbiz certainly on the defensive at this particular point in the matchup as Zoe Stark starts to pull away, continuing to put the boots to the hands and fingers of Showbiz. Showbiz still laid out near the opposing team's corner. There's a kick to the leg from Zoe Stark. Stark takes herself to the top turnbuckle. Showbiz laid out near center and a driving knee with some serious elevation. And here's another pin. 1, 2. A near fall, but Showbiz kicking out before Titania could even make the rescue. Showbiz rounded up by that golden hair, and there's a hard right from Zoe Stark that stuns her but doesn't take her down. Stark goes behind again. German release suplex on Showbiz. Showbiz still trying to get out of that corner. Zoe Stark moves back in right away. Delivers a clothesline to Showbiz, taking her down to the canvas again. And again, Zoe Stark taking herself to the top turnbuckle. Showbiz slowly making her way to her feet. Zoe Stark, here she comes. And, missed with the dropkick by just about an inch. Zoe Stark whips Showbiz to the ropes. And, Luke does press a set of hard right hands right to the head of Showbiz. You might want to consider tagging out to Titania at this point as Zoe Stark really starts to lay in on her. Zoe Stark firmly in control in this ladies tag team matchup at this particular point. Showbiz gathered back up to a standing position by Zoe Stark. Whipped to the opposing team's corner. Zoe Stark with a hard right takes Showbiz down to a seated position in the corner. Gets a hold of her by the ankles and alley-oop assists her out of the corner. Zoe Stark firmly in control of Showbiz here as she whips Showbiz back into the corner again. Here comes Shayna Baszler for her first action in the matchup. Showbiz whipped to the ropes, double team back body drop as Shayna Baszler assumes control for her team, but Showbiz tags in Titania Tatiana. Shayna Baszler catches a spinning heel kick from the Golden Goddess, a clubbing overhand right, and she's going to make Shayna Baszler pay for trying to hurt her partner. Over the top, out onto the floor goes Shayna Baszler. Titania turning her attention to Zoe Stark, hauls her back into the ring the hard way. Showbiz taking care of Shayna Baszler on the outside, rounds her up over the shoulders. What a neck breaker from Showbiz. Titania putting the boots to Zoe Stark on the inside. Zoe Stark not even the legal woman in the ring. The referee continuing to count. Shayna Baszler on the outside. And one arm slammed by Showbiz. And Showbiz might be trying to keep her out. On second thought, no. Showbiz rolls Baszler back into the ring. Titania Tatiana really going to work on Zoe Stark here. A gouge to the face. Goes behind on her. A headbutt right between the shoulder blades and tossed halfway across the ring. Shayna Baszler gets a hold of Titania. Ducks under. Leapfrogs. Here comes Titania. There's a drop kick to the knee for Titania Tatiana. Titania catches a stomp to the arm from Shayna Baszler. As once again, the momentum shifts from one team to another as Shayna Baszler locks in a heel hook stretch on Titania Tatiana. Titania gathered back up to her full height by Shayna Baszler. Baszler with a hard whip towards the corner. Shayna Baszler moves in on Titania, takes herself up to the top turnbuckle in a seated position. Inverted dragon sleeper just hanging Titania up to dry, and she rolls out towards center. And here comes Zoe Stark again on the tag. Titania makes her way to the corner, tags in Showbiz. Fresh partners all the way around here. As Showbiz takes herself to the top turnbuckle. Zoe Stark. That was a disaster for Showbiz and Titania. The crossbody hitting her partner instead of Zoe Stark. Showbiz whipped into the corner by Zoe Stark. Stark turns her around, smashes her head into the buckle. And Zoe Stark taking full advantage of the mistake of Showbiz off the top turnbuckle, taking out her own partner. Another assisted alley-oop out of the corner, this time for Showbiz. Showbiz catches a kick to the back from Zoe Stark. Quickly countered, back up on her feet. The Golden Princess rebounds off the ropes. There's a headbutt to Zoe Stark. Showbiz covers, hooks the leg, 1. But only just a 1 again. Zoe Stark extremely tough. Tatiana comes in on the tag. Zoe Stark charges, and a Hurricane Rana to Tatiana. Titania catches a stomp to the back from Zoe Stark, who makes it to her corner, turns it over to Shayna Baszler, who might have a better chance against Titania. Quick takedown from Shayna Baszler. Nicely done. There's another stomp to the midsection. Baszler and Stark reassuming control of this matchup after a brief momentum shift. Shayna Baszler showing out for the crowd here in Hershey. Titania rounded back up again. The arm wound up, goes behind. Whoa! What a neck breaker from Shayna Baszler. Baszler covers. 1, 2. But nope, Titania far too strong and still too early in the matchup. Shayna Baszler delivers a set of hard lefts, forearms to the head of Titania. Absolutely a relentless attack. Shayna Baszler with a stomp to the arm of the Golden Goddess. Tatiana writhing in pain on the canvas. Shayna Baszler goes to work on the head and neck area of Tatiana. Slams her head down to the canvas. Baszler follows up with another stomp to the arm, keeping Titania on the mat. Here comes Zoe Stark. Titania rolls to the outside. Zoe Stark moves in on Showbiz, but is quickly countered. Shayna Baszler turning her attention to Titania on the outside. Gets her back inside the ring for Zoe Stark. Stark turns her attention back to Titania. Titania counters with a kick to the leg. Locks up Zoe Stark. Whip toward the ropes. There's a forearm that takes Stark down to the mat. Walt Rothburn getting the hell on out of the way. A wise move around Titania. Stark whipped to the opposing team's corner. And Tatiana smashes her head into the turnbuckle. Titania pulls her out of the corner. Takes herself up to the middle rope. And whoa, here we go. Oh! Big time splash off the middle turnbuckle. A knee to the back of Zoe Stark. Tatiana indicating to the fans that she now has control of Zoe Stark. But Zoe Stark crawling her way to the corner. Titania completely oblivious. Her ego just disastrous. Goes behind. Zoe Stark nails her with a shot to the back, whips her to the opposing team's corner. Here comes Shayna Baszler. And all that showing out from Titania wound up costing her as Shayna Baszler assumes control for her team. Back into a set of mounted punches on the Golden Goddess. Shayna Baszler takes herself to the top turnbuckle. Titania laid out near center ring. Here she comes. Elbow right across the chest of Titania. And here's a pin. 1, 2. But no. Tatiana getting up the right shoulder. The frustration from Shayna Baszler clearly palpable. There's a stomp to the back of the head. Out of pure spite, I would imagine. Here comes Zoe Stark on the tag. Running kick from Titania takes Stark down quickly. As Stark catches an arm smash, and Titania takes a walk out of town, turns it back over to Showbiz. Stark with a clothesline taking Showbiz down to the mat. Gets a hold of her quickly, goes behind, German release suplex to Showbiz, who is starting to take quite a bit of punishment at the hands of Baszler and Stark. A heel hook stretch from Zoe Stark on Showbiz. Tatiana looking on with some degree of concern. A snap of the leg from Zoe Stark. Showbiz pinned. Here's another 1, but no, just a 1. Showbiz powering out of the pin. Zoe Stark goes back to work on her. Gets a hold on her. Hard whip to the ropes. And another Luke does press, another set of hard right hands to the head of Showbiz. Showbiz gathered up by Stark. Oh, there's a knee right to the head of Showbiz as Shayna Baszler is brought in on the tag. Showbiz getting back to a standing position. A throat chop. A lethal throat chop taking her down hard. So Shayna Baszler grabbing her throat on that chop as Titania comes in on the tag. A clothesline puts her into the corner. Shayna Baszler putting the boot to the throat of Tatiana. Titania laid out near her team's corner as Zoe Stark is brought back in on the tag. Titania slowly starting to stir here as Zoe Stark moves in. Stark slams her head face first into the canvas, turns her attention to Showbiz. Showbiz counters with a forearm, momentarily stunning Stark. Another cheap shot to Stark from Showbiz. Titania literally strangling Showbiz, and there's a headbutt. Well, now Showbiz takes over Zoe Stark near the opposing team's corner, and in trouble. There's a stomp to the leg as Showbiz drives a knee into the back of Zoe Stark, followed up with another stomp to the leg. Zoe Stark catches a knee to the back of the head from Showbiz. Struggling to make a standing position against the ropes, Showbiz gets a hold on her, turns her around and chokes her with the top rope. Again, no respecters of the rule book, neither Titania nor Showbiz, as Titania is brought in on the tag. A double team about to happen. Here we go, up and whoa! What a nice tandem move. Titania rounds up Zoe Stark over the shoulder, and whoa! What a driver, head first. Titania perhaps sensing victory could be near here. Zoe Stark rounded up by the throat. Round low. Spike thumb from Titania. Here's a pin, one. Only a one count. Titania surprising me not using her trademark Samoan drop finisher, but going to the spike thumb on Zoe Stark all the way up on the top turnbuckle. Here we go, headbutt right across the chest of Zoe Stark. Titania beats it out of town, turns it back over to Showbiz. Zoe Stark laid out and clutching her chest as Showbiz moves in, indicating to the fans she's going to do something big. A chop across the chest, a left jab. Titania watching as, oh, what a beautiful slam from Showbiz. And boy, is she smug. Zoe Stark tags in Shayna Baszler again. The showboating winding up costing Showbiz and Titania some points here. Shayna Baszler rounded up by Showbiz, laid up against the ropes. And now yanking on the arm against those hard ropes. Showbiz rounds her up, but Shayna Baszler counters with a shot to the midsection, gets a hold on Showbiz. Hard Irish whip to the ropes, and here we go. Whoa, what a beautiful suplex, a one-arm suplex from Shayna Baszler. And here comes Zoe Stark again. This match, a long one so far. There's an elbow, a point of the elbow right to the top of the skull of Showbiz. A hard right spins her around. Zoe Stark gathers her up, and whoa, what a whirling knee right to the head. Here's a pin. 1, 2, 3, and just like that, Baszler and Stark pick up the win.
Here's the time, 13 minutes and 59 seconds. And your winners, Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark.
It is perhaps one of the rarest things in the world to get an upset win with a happy ending, and it certainly is one for Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark with a much-needed win over Titania and Showbiz. We'll be right back. Fans, as we continue tag team competition with the 2025 Memphis Million winner, Mr. Ringside Eddie Guns, his brother El Jefe Ray Guns, facing the excellence of execution, Bret the Hitman Hart, and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, the Hart Foundation. They say Eddie Guns has got a new attitude.
This next tag team match is scheduled for one fall with a 20-minute time limit. Approaching the ring at a combined weight of 477 pounds, from the Bronx, New York, Mr. Ringside Eddie Guns, and El Jefe Ray Guns, the Guns Brothers.
Well, perhaps new theme music, but the same appearance and attitude of Mr. Ringside and El Jefe, the Guns Brothers. And El Jefe very proud of his brother Eddie for having picked up that win in the 2025 Memphis Million, and the Guns family dynasty has certainly been profiting off of that Memphis Million win. And Eddie Guns still has that Memphis Million contract briefcase, still good for almost the rest of the year, and he still hasn't put it to use yet, wondering when he ever will. That's a good question. I'd like to know that myself. But he's hanging on to it, so who can say?
Their opponents at a combined weight of 505 pounds, from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, Bret the Hitman Hart, and from Reno, Nevada, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, the Hart Foundation.
Bret and the Anvil coming in off a recent win, and they're going to try and get another one tonight. against Eddie and Ray. And Bret the Hitman Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart definitely not fond of the Guns brothers, and they equally, in turn, are not fond of the Hart Foundation either.
This one's cute to my eye because of the serious hate between Mr. Ringside and the Hitman. Eddie's called Bret Hart a crybaby and a chronic complainer, even calls him Mr. Salty. Now, of course, Bret didn't appreciate those remarks. And what do you suppose the man did? He complained. What else?
Christy, that was good. El Jefe, Ray Guns, and Jim the Anvil Neidhart starting out in this match with Charles Lacera sounding the bell. Off we go. Jim the Anvil Neidhart catches a kick to the midsection, a couple of chops across the chest from El Jefe, up against the ropes, pitched over the top rope, out onto the floor goes Ray Guns. Jim the Anvil Neidhart turns his attention to Mr. Ringside, who counters with a forearm. The Anvil goes right back on Ray Guns, but catches a kitchen sink knee to the gut. El Jefe locks up with the Anvil, gets a hold of him, takes him down to the canvas, and snaps the leg. He is working on that figure four leg lock for later, I guarantee it. Mr. Ringside, Mr. Memphis Million comes on in. Jim the Anvil Neidhart still laid out from El Jefe's attack, as Mr. Ringside locks in a heel hook stretch. Mr. Ringside, Eddie Guns, certainly with a new attitude since winning the 2025 Memphis Million. Here's a pin, 1, 2, but no. Jim the Anvil Neidhart getting the shoulder up. A right, a hard right, an elbow to the chest, and a DDT from Mr. Ringside. The Anvil quickly back up, charges, misses his grapple. Mr. Ringside slams the Anvil's head face first into the canvas, takes himself to the top turnbuckle. El Jefe getting out of the way. There's a knee right to the chest of the Anvil. And here comes El Jefe, Ray Guns again. Jim the Anvil Neidhart laid out near the Guns brothers corner. El Jefe flips him over and drives the knee right into the canvas. El Jefe again slamming the face of Jim the Anvil Neidhart into the mat. El Jefe, Ray Guns gets a hold of the Anvil, smashes his head into the buckle again, but he counters, catches a cheap shot from Mr. Ringside. El Jefe goes behind on the Anvil, gets him up, and there's a knee breaker. The Anvil having problems getting out of the Guns brothers corner, and their sphere of influence. There's a shot, what a shot right there, and then down to the canvas one more time, and another leg snap from El Jefe. The Anvil counters, gets back up on his feet, and is definitely beating it out of town, and turns it over to the excellence of execution, Bret the Hitman Hart, for his first action in this matchup. Bret whipped to the corner by El Jefe. El Jefe moves in, climbs up onto the middle rope, and he's going to lay in 10 count punches on Bret the Hitman Hart. And the crowd here in Hershey going crazy. Jim the Anvil Neidhart looking on as Bret finds his way out of danger with El Jefe. Bret drives a knee into the head of Ray Guns, follows that up with a stomp to the back of the head. Bret the Hitman Hart drives another knee into the head of El Jefe. He rolls to the outside. I think he's had quite enough. Jim the Anvil Neidhart looking on as Bret the Hitman Hart does a little showing off, and there goes Mr. Ringside, courtesy of the shoulder tackle. El Jefe moves back into the ring, gets caught from behind by Bret the Hitman Hart. Belly to back suplex from the Hitman. Here comes Jim the Anvil Neidhart again. El Jefe rolls up, but catches a running knee before he can stand up. Jim the Anvil Neidhart misses with the knee as El Jefe quickly gets out of the way. Oh, the Anvil puts on the brakes, delivers a headbutt to El Jefe, gets a hold on him, gets a hold of the trunks, has him up. Vertical suplex from Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Neidhart covers and hooks the leg. 1, 2, but again, no, a near fall. El Jefe getting the shoulder up. Jim the Anvil Neidhart drives a hard knee into the midsection, a clubbing double axe handle across the back of Ray Guns. Here comes Bret the Hitman Hart again. Bret moves in quickly, misses his grapple. El Jefe gets a hold on him, rounds him up, and there's a backbreaker, a knee right across the back of Bret the Hitman Hart. The Hitman back up to a standing position. El Jefe takes him down to the canvas too. And now into that spinning toe hold. Texas cloverleaf, whatever you want to call it. But he is stretching the leg of Bret the Hitman Hart, also working towards a figure four leg lock later on down the match. El Jefe slams the head of Bret the Hitman Hart into the canvas, and here comes Mr. Ringside Eddie Guns again. Bret the Hitman Hart still recovering from Ray's attack, and into the heel hook stretch one more time. The Guns brothers working extremely efficiently. They've had the momentum on their side for most of this matchup so far. Here comes El Jefe again. Bret the Hitman Hart standing there waiting for him. El Jefe catches a kick to the midsection. Bret the Hitman Hart locks him up. The Hitman escorting El Jefe towards his team's corner. He is resisting, but it's no use. Head first into the turnbuckle goes El Jefe. Here comes the Anvil. Up on the top rope. Assisted flying crossbody from the Anvil to El Jefe. Laid out center ring, and here's some retaliation for you. Face first into the canvas. Nose first goes El Jefe, courtesy of Jim the Anvil Neidhart. The Anvil gets a hold on El Jefe. Escorts him towards the Hart Foundation corner. Head first into his turnbuckle. Here comes Bret the Hitman Hart. Here comes a double team incoming for El Jefe. Hard whip to the ropes. Woo! Double elbows. As Bret the Hitman Hart goes after Eddie Guns, but gets quickly countered. El Jefe rolls to the outside. A shoulder from Bret the Hitman Hart puts both Guns brothers out on the floor. The Hitman rolls to the outside, goes right back to work on El Jefe Ray Guns. The referee counted. A knee driven right into that hard floor by Bret the Hitman Hart. Mr. Ringside Eddie Guns still recovering from that shoulder tackle. There's a right, there's another right from El Jefe. El Jefe rolls Bret the Hitman Hart back inside the ring. Mr. Ringside still recovering as El Jefe catches a kick to the midsection from Bret the Hitman Hart. The Hitman whips Ray to the ropes. Kitchen sink knee to the gut. And here comes Jim the Anvil Neidhart again. Mr. Ringside back at his tag corner, and just in time to make the tag. And he moves in on the Anvil. The Anvil rounded up, hard whip to the ropes. And there's a nice hip toss from Mr. Ringside. Eddie Guns catches a shot to the midsection from Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Neidhart rounded up again by Mr. Ringside. Up over the shoulders of the fireman's carry, hung up on the top rope. Followed up with a stomp to the midsection. El Jefe nowhere to be seen. The Anvil delivers an elbow to the midsection of Mr. Ringside, all the way up and all the way down, face first into the mat. Jim the Anvil Neidhart tagging in Bret the Hitman Hart. Mr. Ringside back to a standing position, swing and a miss from Bret the Hitman Hart with the clothesline. He catches a shot to the back. Mr. Ringside whips him to the far right corner. There's a knee to the midsection. Down goes Bret the Hitman Hart, and a blatant choke from Mr. Ringside, who definitely has never had good feelings about Bret the Hitman Hart. The Hitman catching a hard haymaker right there from Eddie Guns. Eddie Guns snaps the arm on the Hitman. The Hitman rounded up to a standing position. Hard right spins him around. Mr. Ringside goes behind, tags him with a hard shot to the back, goes behind again, does it one more time. The Hitman whipped into the corner. Whoa, look at this. Just absolutely just using him like a speed bag. Bret the Hitman Hart taken down into a seated position in the corner and right back into that choke one more time. Again, Mr. Ringside and Bret the Hitman Hart will never go bowling together. Eddie Guns again snapping the arm of the excellence of execution. Bret the Hitman Hart on the defensive, big time hard lefts to the head of Bret the Hitman Hart. A disrespectful slap across the face for the coup de grace. As Bret rolls to the outside, Mr. Ringside on the top turnbuckle changes his mind about the high-risk maneuver, deciding to go after Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Instead, tags him with a right, hangs him up the top rope. Down goes the Anvil. Mr. Ringside slides out of the ring, slides back in for a quick reset. Bret the Hitman Hart wrong-footed, but whoa. Here we go, locked into the abdominal stretch by Bret the Hitman Hart. And he's trying to get a submission, but I don't think it's going to work. Mr. Ringside with elbows to the leg of the Hitman follows it up with a hip toss, and he is disengaged from the abdominal stretch. Here comes El Jefe again. Bret the Hitman Hart back to a standing position, catches a right, gets spun around, and Ray Guns, battered and bleeding, taking the Hitman into a sleeper hold. The referee checking on Bret the Hitman Hart. Hey, El Jefe's got it locked in. Jim the Anvil Neidhart having to come to the rescue of his partner. But El Jefe, right there waiting for him, has him all the way up for a long vertical suplex, practically piling him on top of Bret the Hitman Hart. The Anvil counters with a dragon screw, taking El Jefe down to the canvas. The Anvil making his way tentatively to his corner. Bret the Hitman Hart still laid out face down as El Jefe drags him by the wrist and ankle towards center ring, possibly for a pin, possibly for a submission. Uh-oh, here we go, El Jefe. Definitely smelling blood in the water here. Bret the Hitman Hart with an impressive counter. An elbow right to the arm of El Jefe, a kick to the chest. And just like that, the Hitman out of danger, turning it over to Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Ray Gones catches a kick from the Anvil, a double axe handle across the back, and a clothesline to the back of the head. The Anvil opening up with right hands to the back of the head of El Jefe. El Jefe counter, slams Jim the Anvil Neidhart face first into the canvas. Dead center ring, here comes Mr. Ringside Eddie Guns again. Jim the Anvil Neidhart standing center ring waiting for him. They charge, they collide, no result, they lock up. Mr. Ringside with the neck breaker on Jim the Anvil Neidhart. And here's another quick pin. 1, 2. But again, no, Jim the Anvil Neidhart getting the shoulder up in time. He charges, misses his move. El Jefe looking on as Mr. Ringside whips him to the ropes and fails to connect with the knee, but connects with a kick to the midsection, follows that up with a clothesline, still taking the Anvil down. And here comes El Jefe Ray Guns again, the Anvil making his way to safety, tags in Bret the Hitman Hart. El Jefe falls flat on his face, I'm not sure what that was about. Goes behind on Bret the Hitman Hart, and there's a back suplex to the Hitman. Again, Mr. Ringside tagged in, frequent tags, a hallmark of the Guns Brothers. The cross body from Bret the Hitman Hart fails to find the mark, catches a spine buster from Mr. Ringside, another pin. 1, 2, and again no. Bret the Hitman Hart refusing to give up the ship here. Outside on the apron, using the ropes to get himself stood up, Mr. Ringside. Right there, but oh, look at this. Double axe handle to El Jefe, fails to find the mark. Bret the Hitman Hart going after El Jefe out of pure frustration, if nothing else. Makes his way back inside the ring. Mr. Ringside catches a couple of hard rights from the Hitman. Double arm suplex, and here's a pin. 1, but no, just a 1. The Hitman moves in on Mr. Ringside, delivering hard lefts to the midsection of Bret the Hitman Hart. A double throat chop puts Bret against the ropes. Over the top rope, out onto the floor goes Mr. Ringside as Bret the Hitman Hart turns his attention to El Jefe, tags him with a hard right hand, follows it up with another right, and it ends a drop kick that takes him out to the floor. El Jefe currently out of commission as Mr. Ringside makes his way back inside, and there's an uppercut from Bret the Hitman Hart. Mr. Ringside countering with a kick to the head, back on his feet, delivers a kick to the midsection of Bret the Hitman Hart. He is setting it up. The flatliner, there it is. The flatliner laid out Bret the Hitman Hart. Here's a pin attempt. 1, 2. Barely just a 1. Bret the Hitman Hart with amazing resilience getting the left shoulder up. Mr. Ringside with a stomp right to the face of Bret the Hitman Hart. Gathered up slowly to a standing position. There's a discus punch taking the Hitman down. The Hitman starting to take a lot of punishment at the hands of the Guns Brothers. Bret the Hitman Hart laid out face down near the corner. Mr. Ringside takes himself to the top turnbuckle. Elbow across the back of Bret the Hitman Hart. It wasn't pretty, but it was effective. The Hitman slammed face first into the canvas. Mr. Ringside going for the pin again, but Jim the Anvil Neidhart right there to save the match for his team. Mr. Ringside with a chop across the chest, a right, a left to Bret the Hitman Hart, a double choke lift and slam down to the canvas as Mr. Ringside takes it to his corner. Here comes Jim the Anvil Neidhart again. Mr. Ringside takes him over the top rope, out onto the floor. Wow, Mr. Ringside Eddie Guns with suffused with a whole new set of confidence, courtesy of that Memphis Million win in December. Back up to a standing position is Mr. Ringside. Bret the Hitman Hart looking on. Jim the Anvil Neidhart locks it up with Mr. Ringside, winds him up. There's a clubbing blow right to the chest of Mr. Ringside. The Anvil rounding up Mr. Ringside again. A hard right spins him around. The Anvil locking it in here. Cobra clutch time. Jim the Anvil Neidhart countered. Mr. Ringside finding his way out of the Cobra clutch. There's a clothesline. And here's another pin. 1, 2. A lot of pins, a lot of attempted pins, and a lot of near falls in this matchup. More than halfway done. Mr. Ringside tags in El Jefe. The Anvil standing center ring. There's a kick and a miss. A right from El Jefe. The Anvil whipped to the ropes. There's a kitchen sink knee to the gut. Spinning Jim the Anvil Neidhart over. Here comes Mr. Ringside again. The Hart Foundation unable to tell if they're coming or going. The frequent tags of the Guns brothers and their high aggression is definitely making it very hard for the Hart Foundation. Mr. Ringside up on the top turnbuckle as Jim the Anvil Neidhart makes his way to a standing position. Here he comes, double axe handle right across the head of Jim the Anvil Neidhart. The Anvil rounded up again, another kick to the midsection. He's going to nail him with the flatliner too. One wasn't enough, there's a second one to the Anvil. Bret the Hitman Hart took one, the Anvil's taken one, and here's another pin. 1, 2. I would have been convinced this match would have been over right there, but somehow Jim the Anvil Neidhart powering out of that flatliner. Here comes El Jefe Ray Guns again. The Anvil trying to get back to a standing position. Mr. Ringside looking on as El Jefe sets up the pile driver on the Anvil and nails it. The Anvil catching the full effect of the pile driver as Mr. Ringside makes his way back inside. A flatliner, a pile driver. What more can they do to the Anvil? A throat chop, a right, another right. A jawbreaker from Jim the Anvil Neidhart countering Mr. Ringside all the way up, all the way down again. Face first into the canvas goes Mr. Ringside. Here comes Bret the Hitman Hart. Less than 5 minutes to go in this matchup, and it has been insane. Definitely one of the best matchups we've seen tonight. Bret the Hitman Hart with a shot to the midsection and a standing drop kick takes Mr. Ringside down and out to the floor. Jim the Anvil Neidhart also laid out. Bret the Hitman Hart doing quite a bit of showboating here as he charges, goes through the top. Oh, wow. Right through the middle ropes, taking down Mr. Ringside on the outside. There's a right, there's another right, there's a third, there's a fourth, there's a fifth, there's a sixth. My God. A fireman's carry from the Hitman. He is furious. There's a stomp to the head of Mr. Ringside. A driving knee into the back of the head. Bret the Hitman Hart on a whole new gear at this point. Rolls Mr. Ringside back inside the ring, and it looks like the Hart Foundation might have a chance to pick up a win here. Bret the Hitman Hart smelling blood in the water for sure. Here it comes. He's going to lay in the sharpshooter on Mr. Ringside. Dead center ring with no ropes to get to, no means of egress. Mr. Ringside in big trouble. El Jefe making the save for his team. And Bret the Hitman Hart talking trash to Mr. Ringside as Jim the Anvil Neidhart is brought back in on the tag. Mr. Ringside trying to make his way to the corner, but the Anvil is definitely going to get him. Oh, no, he's not. Here comes El Jefe again. Gets a hold, gets slammed face first into the canvas. Mr. Ringside with a kick to the midsection of Jim the Anvil Neidhart before beating it out of town. Whip to the corner goes the Anvil. He counters with both boots to the face of Ray Guns. El Jefe rounded up for a gut-wrench suplex from Jim the Anvil Neidhart again. The Anvil, now sensing victory could be at hand. He gets a hold on El Jefe, has him up. Beautiful power slam with a pin and a hook of the leg. Here's the ref. 1, 2. But El Jefe powering out of the pin without even an assist from Mr. Ringside. Jim the Anvil Neidhart blatantly choking El Jefe Ray Guns as he rolls to the outside. The Anvil in hot pursuit. Countered by El Jefe with a right. Another right. El Jefe rounds up the Anvil, front cradle, slams him into the lip of the apron, and he sinks down like the blob. Bret the Hitman Hart looking on as El Jefe makes his way back inside the ring. El Jefe gonna go after him, but he counters. He saw that one coming. El Jefe not willing to give up, hangs him up off the top rope again. Both members of the Hart Foundation laid out on their side of the ring. On the outside, here comes Mr. Ringside Eddie Guns again. Both members of the Hart Foundation non-compass menace at the present time as the referee continues to count the legal man in the ring. Mr. Ringside taking a long walk around the corner to move in on Jim the Anvil Neidhart. The Anvil one step ahead. Takes him down with a chop block behind the knee. Mr. Ringside Eddie Guns rounded up again. The Anvil gets him back inside the ring, and something's got to give with less than 2 minutes to go in this matchup. Mr. Ringside back up on his feet, slides back out after Jim the Anvil Neidhart gets a hold on him, rolls him back inside the ring. The Anvil making his way to a standing position. Here comes Mr. Ringside. Clothesline fails to find the mark. The Anvil with a knee to the midsection of Mr. Ringside. Eddie Guns countered with elbows to the midsection of the Anvil. The Anvil locked up by Mr. Ringside. There's another neck breaker drop from Eddie Guns. Jim the Anvil Neidhart favoring that neck. And here comes El Jefe Ray Guns with about a minute to go. Something's just got to give. Whoa, what a neck breaker. And here's a pin 1, 2. Bret the Hitman Hart saving the match for his team with less than 1 minute to go. We may be looking at a time limit draw here, people. There's a stomp right to the sides of the face of Jim the Anvil Neidhart. El Jefe Ray Guns with a hard shot to the body. Oh, and look at this. Mr. Ringside working on Bret on the outside. The Anvil whipped to the corner. Here comes El Jefe. There's a clothesline. Down goes the Anvil into the corner. By the ankles, alley-oop assisted out of the corner. Here comes another pin from Ray. 1, 2. And that is it. The Guns Brothers picking up this win at the 11th hour.
Here's the time, 19 minutes and 38 seconds. And your winners, the Guns Brothers.
Well, how about this one? El Jefe pulling it off again with just 23 seconds to go, picking up the win over Bret the Hitman Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. The Hart Foundation, the Guns Brothers, definitely with a new winning attitude in 2026. And let's see where it takes them for the rest of the year. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back with our main event. T-Dog Tomasio facing Jinder Mahal in just a moment. Tonight in our main event, the Rage Television Championship on the line. T-Dog Tomasio, the reigning champion, defending against Jinder Mahal, the modern-day Maharaja, in his first championship challenge in RWL in over a year. Well, in the last year or so, Jinder Mahal, the modern-day Maharaja, has certainly made an impact, but hasn't had too many title opportunities. Tonight being one of his first, an attempt at the Rage Television title against T-Dog Tomasio. I felt this was a terrific main event. Jinder Mahal certainly has the potential to pull an upset win on T-Dog, but at the same time, ever since T-Dog got a hold of the Rage Television title, nobody's been able to take it from him. It's all a question of whether or not Jinder Mahal is hungry enough. Well, Jinder has accrued a fairly decent win-loss record, so the potential, as you point out, is certainly there.
Tonight's Rage main event, scheduled for one fall, with a 15-minute time limit, is for the Rage Television Championship. Introducing the challenger, from the Punjab in India, weighing 234 pounds, he is the modern-day Maharaja, Jinder Mahal.
The modern-day Maharaja looking very, very focused.
His opponent, representing the Ferrantino group, from parts unknown, weighing 235 pounds, the RWL Rage Television Champion, T-Dog Tomasio.
Well, since winning the Rage Television title last year, T-Dog Tomasio has defended it over a dozen times successfully, but tonight's going to be a real challenge against Jinder Mahal, who does have the potential to become the next Rage television champion. Charles Lucera displaying the Rage TV title. And this match just about to get underway. The modern day Maharaja ready to go. Likewise, T-Dog Tomasio. Charles Lucera sounds the bell. Mahal charges. There's a knee taking Tomasio down to the canvas. T-Dog slammed head first into the mat by Jinder Mahal. Misses with the stomp. T-Dog with a rolling elbow. The Dogster catches another kick from Jinder. Tomasio locks up Mahal. Sets it up. Whoa! Spinning neckbreaker, dead center ring. Look at this little fancy work right there. Whoa! What a clothesline from the Dogster. T-Dog Tomasio firing on all cylinders right out of the gate up on the top turnbuckle. Jinder Mahal making his way to a standing position. Here comes the Dogster. There's an elbow right across the top of the head of Jinder Mahal. The modern day Maharaja catches a fist drop from the Dogster. T-Dog Tomasio administering a serious beating here to the modern day Maharaja as he snaps the arm on Jinder Mahal. Mahal rounded back up, counters with a shot to the midsection from the Dogster, locks it up with T-Dog Tomasio, whips him to the corner. Jinder Mahal charges and drives a shoulder into the midsection of T-Dog. T-Dog counters with a boot to the face, gets himself up out of the corner. A drop kick fails to find the mark, but a kick does. And there's a nice suplex with a pin. Let's see how this goes. 1, 2. But no, Jinder Mahal getting the shoulder up, a near fall. In this Rage television title match, a beautiful arm drag from T-Dog Tomasio. Jinder Mahal rolls to the outside. The Dogster, oh my, over the top rope. A beautiful flip taking Jinder Mahal down on the outside. He fails to connect with the jumping neckbreaker. T-Dog Tomasio with a jab, but quickly countered by Jinder. Jinder Mahal has him up over the shoulders. T-Dog Tomasio quickly counters. Jinder Mahal counters. A clothesline takes the Dogster down to the floor. Jinder Mahal with a couple of chops. A right, a left, a right, a double throat chop, putting Tomasio up against the lip of the apron. Jinder Mahal with a rising knee takes Tomasio down to the floor. There's a stomp to the midsection. Referee Charles Lucera continuing to count. There's a set of hard right hands to the back of the head of the Dogster. Jinder Mahal gathers him back up again. Rolls the Dogster back inside the ring. Jinder Mahal taking a moment to get some adoration from the fans. The Dogster crashes and burns on the high-risk maneuver. He could have broken his legs. T-Dog Tomasio gets back inside the ring. Jinder Mahal waiting right there for him. One arm slams him face first into the canvas. Goes for the pin and hooks the leg. 1. But no, not even. Whoa. T-Dog Tomasio quickly getting that shoulder up. The Dogster gets a hold on the modern day Maharaja. Hard whip to the ropes. Goes behind on a beautiful suplex from the Dogster. T-Dog Tomasio with a jab, a chop, a kick, and a spin kick, taking the modern day Maharaja down to the canvas again. T-Dog Tomasio snapping the leg on Mahal not once but twice. T-Dog quickly making his way to the top turnbuckle here. Jinder Mahal laid out near center. There's a leg drop right across the chest of the modern day Maharaja. The Dogster covers, hooks the leg. 1, 2. But no, Jinder Mahal getting the left shoulder up. T-Dog Tomasio has to start all over again. Rounds up the modern day Maharaja. Hard right spins him around. He goes behind on him, and there's a sleeper hold. And T-Dog certainly got it locked in. Referee Charles Lucera checking on Jinder Mahal. He's in trouble. He's going to have to get himself out of this situation, and he does. There's a jawbreaker disengaging the hold and T-Dog from Jinder Mahal. Jinder locks up with Tomasio. Has him up over the shoulders. Takes a walk to the corner. Drops him head first into the turnbuckle. A stomp to the midsection from Mahal. Now a set of hard lefts to the back of the head of the Dogster. Jinder Mahal well aware opportunities for the Rage television title aren't going to come along every day, and he's got to make hay while the sun shines. T-Dog Tomasio dragged towards center ring. And he's setting it up for the clutch. Jinder goes for it, but T-Dog slips out the back door, delivers a kick to the back of the knee and a drop kick to the back, taking Jinder Mahal down to the canvas. T-Dog Tomasio avoiding Jinder Mahal's finisher, catches a shot to the midsection, counters with a kick to the midsection, locks up Jinder Mahal, whips him into the corner. There's a forearm right to the face. Jinder Mahal whipped out of the corner. T-Dog goes behind, tags him with a shot to the back, whips him to the opposing corner, and does it one more time. Jinder Mahal whipped out. T-Dog Tomasio with a headlock punch to the modern-day Maharaja. Down he goes. A rolling elbow across the back. Jinder Mahal using the ropes to get himself stood up again. T-Dog Tomasio standing right there. He charges clothesline over the top rope. Out onto the floor goes the modern-day Maharaja. Here comes T-Dog Tomasio right after him. And a whoa slam. Jinder Mahal's head right into the floor. The referee already counting. Jinder Mahal counters T-Dog with a dragon screw. Jinder Mahal rounds up the Dogster. There's an elbow. There's a left. There's another elbow. There's another left. There's a kick to the midsection and a kick right to the face, taking the Dogster down to the canvas as Jinder Mahal locks in a heel hook stretch on the outside with the referee continuing to count. Again, the Rage Television Championship on the line in this matchup, and T-Dog Tomasio having his share of problems on the outside. Jinder Mahal with a couple of elbows, a couple of kicks, gets a hold of the Dogster, has him up for the long vertical suplex and nails it. T-Dog Tomasio in big trouble on the outside as Jinder gathers him up again. A chop, a right, up over the shoulder into a spine buster on the floor. T-Dog Tomasio starting to lose control of this match after being bounced off the barricade by Jinder Mahal. Mahal decides to take himself back inside the ring. T-Dog Tomasio dazed and stunned on the outside as Charles Lucera continues the count. Jinder Mahal pacing the ring like a caged animal. And T-Dog Tomasio is still in a dazed state on the outside. He snaps out of it. He makes his way back inside the ring. Jinder Mahal, showboating to the fans, gets caught up into a drop toe hold and into a leg stretch, but too close to the rope, says the referee. T-Dog has to start all over again. The Dogster misses the stomp. Jinder Mahal with a kick to the midsection, tries for the DDT, but T-Dog Tomasio counters with shots to the midsection. The Dogster locks up the modern-day Maharaja and into a couple of rib breakers before hurling Jinder Mahal towards the corner. T-Dog Tomasio stalking Jinder Mahal here. Challenges him to hit him. He swings and misses, but catches a knee to the face. The Dogster rebounds off the ropes. There's another knee to the head. And there's a spin kick taking Jinder Mahal down to the canvas. Beautiful parlay of moves from the Dogster. 1, 2, 3. T-Dog Tomasio retaining the Rage Television title over the modern-day Maharaja by pinfall.
Here's the time, 7 minutes and 7 seconds. Your winner, still Rage TV champion, T-Dog Tomasio.
Well, damn. The Dogster was clearly on a mission to keep that belt because he whipped Jinder from amazing grace to a golden opportunity. I don't think I've ever seen him that dialed in. Top drawer performance from the Rage TV champ, but kind of a rough one for Jinder Mahal. Poor man got himself schooled tonight.
You ain't kidding. T-Dog was definitely hot tonight. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that puts the cap on this week's edition of RWL Rage. As always, we thank all of you for joining us and for supporting RWL Wrestling. Our next scheduled RWL telecast will be Saturday night, February the 14th, Valentine's Day, when RWL Snarl returns. For Christy Ogilvie, Myron Schimmelman, and myself, Don Hickson, thank you, good night, we'll see you next time at ringside.